we go on a Tuesday night. Another Bears loss. They've lost 8 of 9. Another NFC North loss. Another tough loss where they outplayed their opponent. Tough night all around, but here we are with the Club Dub podcast here to get you guys back into the swing of things. We were off for a week. Nobody wanted to talk about that Packers game. It's frustrating for all of us. But we got to talk about this Vikings game. Another tough one. Welcome in, guys. Eric, Drew, and Kevin, presented by SportsMockery.com. Appreciate all you guys tuning in right off the bat. A lot to say. First and foremost, this was a game that, again, moral of the year, we didn't see anything new from the offense. We saw another team score, the same team score 9 points again. How many times is that now? In the last couple seasons, it's got to be getting close to 10.
7.
7 times? There we go.
I calculated it.
My numbers.
9 points or less in 7 games since 2019.
Jeez.
Oh, and for context, guys, John Fox had 3.
There you
Yikes.
go. It's been a tough go. Yesterday was hard to watch. Defense played great. Robert Quinn's fantastic. He's a Pro Bowler this year, 16 sacks. He's pushing on that 17.5 mark. I bet he gets there. He's going up against some weaker offensive lines in the next couple of weeks. I bet he'll get there, which would be awesome to see. He's had a hell of a season, one of the best I can remember, and he's doing it without one of the best in the league in Khalil Mack. Jakeem Grant, Pro Bowler, he got hurt. We're going to talk about all that, and we're going to talk about Roquan Smith also getting snubbed. But first, to the elephant in the room, the Vikings suck.
Yeah.
They're bad, and this Bears team made them look like a Super Bowl team yesterday.
I don't know about that, but, they outplayed them for sure.
What do we think? Personally, my biggest takeaway is Kirk Cousins being under 100 yards passing and Justin Jefferson only putting up 50 against 4 backups in the secondary. That's impressive from Sean Desai and Thomas Graham Jr.
Sean Desai did a fantastic job in that game, making the most out of what he had. He masked the secondary as best he could. The front played really well. Akeem Hicks had a couple sacks. Robert Quinn did his thing. Roquan Smith was everywhere, doing the tackles. Alec Ogletree had actually had a pretty good game. They really stuffed Dalvin Cook all day long. They got pressure on Cousins. If not for a couple of unfortunate, penalties and mistakes, they might give up less than 17 points, which is just incredible to think, considering the Vikings had 26 or more in their previous 6 games. So that should give you an idea of how well they actually played.
Yeah, the Vikings have a good offense. I mean, you think about the players that they have, and look, we like to make fun of Kirk Cousins.
There you go.
But look, he's a solid quarterback. Playing in a scheme that fits him very well. And look, with an entirely makeshift secondary, they were able to hold that offense to 17 points. And quite honestly, 7 of those were not deserved. I mentioned this. I mean, they hitchhiked for that second touchdown on the backs of the refs. Absolutely unbelievable set of circumstances on that second touchdown for the Vikings. But anyway, the Bears played well. This wasn't the Vikings, missing a throw here or, fumbling there. I mean, this was solid coverage. It was good tackling. It was pass breakups. It was good pressure. It was sacks. It was run stops. They played really well. They were fired up. Sean Desai, it was a masterclass from him coming back from COVID. Very impressive performance. They did not get the type of help that they deserved from the offense, but they were ready to go. They were motivated and they showed it, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think to me it's all about 96. We'll get into the comments that he had after the game, and this dude plays. His motor never stops. He's been really banged up over the last couple of years, but his motor never stops, and he was the reason that Dalvin Cook had a pretty good game. But it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out all second half long because of 96 in the middle. Robert Quinn, again, not going to take anything away from him. He is just, awesome. I've never seen a defensive end so fast. He looked like he had the speed of Myles Garrett out there on a couple of those sacks on Cousins, and especially the strip sack as well. So, but nonetheless, it's time to talk about the offense. I know nobody wants to talk about the offense, but the Bears are officially eliminated from playoff contention, much because they just couldn't get it together this year. When the offense had good games, there was only a couple of them, the defense laid down. When the defense had great games like last night, the offense lays down. I struggle with this because I know that a lot of people want to blame Fields right off the bat because it's the easy thing to do. Just like blaming Matt Nagy is the easy thing to do right off the bat, right? I thought Matt Nagy called a pretty good first half. There was no execution from Fields. Montgomery fumbles, drops from Cole Kmet and Mooney. Again, I just thought that there was no – again, it's all disjointed. There's nothing that's going to click at the same time for this team. But again, I didn't think Fields played a bad game overall. I really don't think he played a bad game.
It's always something with this offense. And look, at this point, I think that the book's been written on Matt Nagy. His time is up after this year. I think he absolutely deserved a chance to see what could be done without Mitch Trubisky anchoring it down, and it didn't work out well for him. So, I think we're all looking forward to the end of the season, and we can all move on and see what happens. But look, yeah, to your point, Kevin, I thought yesterday I know that 4th and 1 play was going to give people ulcers, but I think he called a pretty good game yesterday. He stayed committed to the run, which, he's been ripped on for not doing. But look, the Vikings have trouble in their secondary, and they have trouble stopping the run, and he stayed balanced. And I thought he did a pretty good job. But yeah, the execution was awful. Penalties that just untimely. Drops, some bad sacks taken, some bad, just miscommunications at times. It's just disjointed, and it was just very frustrating, a very frustrating game overall. Justin Fields, I mean, yeah, he had a couple of drives where I thought he looked, poised and solid, and a few plays here and there, but the rookie mistakes showed up, and he took, one too many sacks that he just cannot take. I mean, these were not a result of immediate pressure. These were a result of holding the ball too long. And, I know we talk about rookie mistakes, and yeah, he's a rookie and he's in a bad situation. And I get it, but at the same time, these are things
overcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He needs to overcome them, going forward, because they were still mistakes that he made. And, I wouldn't say I was encouraged by yesterday's performance. It probably wasn't as bad as I reacted to yesterday, which I gave him a D for yesterday. Maybe it was more of a C, but yeah, it's just, I wouldn't be encouraged looking at that performance necessarily, but we'll see what happens the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Eric.
Oh, sorry. It was an entire offensive failure. I mean, Fields played his part. He had the fumbles. He took the sacks. No denying that. He needs to learn from that, and that's something they need to get cleaned up going into next year. And he knows that. He's admitted to it a couple of times. So it's not like he's completely immune to the, responsibility that he has. But, the offensive line didn't protect well enough. They had some bad penalties themselves, some bad pressures. And then, the big problem that cropped up in that game again was the drops. I mean, a couple of tight end drops, a couple of wide receiver drops. Darnell Mooney has 8 drops this year. He had 1 last year. So this is a problem. And I think I'm pretty sure 4 of these drops have been in the end zone for Justin Fields since he took over as the starter. So he should have 4 more touchdown passes than he does, which should give you an idea of how bad the execution on this offense has been throughout, especially in the red zone. So the problems run deep with this offense, and it starts at the top with Nagy and the coaching staff. They need to reset, bring in some new talent, bring in a new coaching staff that can instill some discipline in this group and get them to execute better.
Yeah, 2 points I want to point out. One, let's not forget that the Vikings have the best pass rush in the league statistically right now with the amount of QB pressures and sacks. They lead the league in sacks, I believe. I don't know, maybe the Bears retook that last night. They had 4 or 5 again. But the Vikings have been right there. They came in to that game with the most sacks in the league. So they have a pretty formidable defense. But again, a couple of the sacks that Fields took, you can't have it, especially when, Tevin Jenkins starts out the game with a holding call. Yeah, I don't agree with it. I thought it was kind of bogus. But listen, good teams get the benefit of the doubt. Bad teams don't. And
we'll overcome it,
Right, exactly. But I do want to say that as much as the offensive line didn't have their most shining moment, we're looking at positives with James Daniels. We're looking at positives with Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins. Overall, I think that it's gonna take a lot of money to shore up that line at some point. I think they mentioned on the broadcast that James Daniels is a free agent this year. He's someone you definitely want to bring back. But again, you're right. To me, I blame it on the drops. At the end of the day, if I have to point my finger at one thing, there's a lot of things, but it's the drops. Jimmy Graham, he doesn't practice all week. He's a resting vet. He gets paid $1 million a touchdown catch when you put it in terms like that. Think about it. Like, he is paid to catch touchdowns, and he dropped one yesterday. And it was right in his hands. It was contested, but make the damn catch. Cole Kmet, Where you been? I'm not ready to give up on you yet, but where are you? I'm tired of watching these drops. He's not. Then even Demir Bird on on a fourth down play, it was a little overshot. It was a rifle throw, but you got to catch it. You had both hands on it.
Hit him in the hands, man.
Catch the ball.
You got to catch it.
Yeah, somebody tell Fields to stop hitting his receivers in the hand. I like that. I like that tweet from Adam Hogue yesterday.
That was great. That was great. You know, it's interesting. I mean, the offense, they had 370 total yards. I mean, they moved the ball.
They were moving it all night.
If the Vikings
outplayed the Vikings
end zone, they would have won 34-17. I think that was a Dan Pompei quote in one of his articles today, and it's true. I mean, they were in the red zone. They were dominating on offense. Tevin Jenkins was playing, other than the penalties, I thought he played really well. James Daniels has more than earned his contract extension. David Montgomery was running hard. Of course, he had that fumble, of course, which can't happen, but he was playing. He was running hard and doing what he does. He had that awesome fourth down catch on that weird play call in the first half. It's just this goes back to what I mentioned before. It's just there's something or the other that brings down the offense in a critical moment, and they're not good enough to overcome some of that. So to what Eric was saying earlier, yeah, they need to bring in a lot more talent. You know, they're going to have one wide receiver under contract. I guess two if you include Daz Newsome.
That's fine. They need a complete reboot there anyway. Fine with me.
100%. I mean, you're talking about at least maybe one or two free agents. You're talking about one or two draft picks and a true shakeup of that room. And we'll see what happens.
Tight end might be creeping up on that list.
I was going to say that was going to be my next point. Is tight end. I mean, how sure are you that you want to go into 2022 with Cole Kmet as the tight end number one, right?
I think it depends on your coach. Depends on how you want to scheme up a tight end. I honestly think that's a big part of it. But you're right. I'm not ready to give up on Cole Kmet yet, but man, oh man, he had a better rookie year than he's regressed this year. He's had a worse year this year.
He's been bad.
It's hard. But again, not questioning his effort. Dude grew up a Bears fan. I know he wants to play well. I know he's not trying to drop the football, but the execution's not there. Speaking of having bad hands, here's the fumble from Fields yesterday, and how this needs to be a number one priority for him in the offseason. This has got to stop.
Second down and 11. Fields will keep it himself. Avoids a hit and coughs up the football. And it's recovered by Minnesota. Anthony Barr jumped on the football. Cameron Dantzler able to knock it free from Fields.
Now,
it's a classic NFL play by a defender. You know, that's what they're taught. They're taught to punch at the football, and Fields hasn't been good enough about, cinching it up and protecting it. He wasn't used to this in college. He wasn't used to defenders making plays like that, and it's showing up. He's way too loose with that football, and they're punching at it constantly and knocking it out. Somebody's got to get on him about that.
And there is one thing that I want to point out about this play, and it's the last excuse that I'm going to use for Justin. His ribs are still hurting. He didn't want to take a shot to the ribs there. That's pretty obvious what happened, right? I mean, we go back and watch the play again. He clearly is holding the ball kind of closer, away from the injured part of his ribs, and ends up getting the ball knocked out. I think this comes to a little bit of reckless decision-making just because, again, he thinks that he thinks he can beat these guys with one move. And I think the greatest example of that is the Cleveland game when he tried to outrun Myles Garrett to the sideline. You're not. It's just not going to happen.
The Vegas game with the spin move. I mean, it's happened a few times this year where he has done a pretty decent job about not repeating the same mistakes in games. When he makes one, he'll encounter that situation again and he'll fix it. And I think he's done a pretty good job of that. But I feel like in this game, and especially as it comes to running with the ball and protecting the football or himself, that has crept up a few times this year where it's like, well, you kind of just made the same mistake again. And, you haven't shown the pattern of doing that in other areas, like some, bad reads or not picking up a blitz or something like that. It's been, he really, really needs to, for his sake. And it's not just about protecting the football. Obviously that's a big deal, but for his own health, he's gotta, that has to be an off-season priority for him. Absolutely. Because it's not, it's just going to shorten his career if he continues to be loose with the football and keep himself in harm's way.
Where are you at with number 1? Did he take a step back? Let us know in the comments section. Again, we're about 15 minutes into our show, Club Dub Podcast, presented by SportsMockery.com. We took a week off. That Packers loss was too much for me. I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to talk about it. Great first half, ruined. And again, another game lost. Bears have now lost 8 of 9. We're talking about how fraudulent the Vikings are, but first and foremost, I want to hear your thoughts about Fields. This is the time. There's 3 games left. What are we trying to see from him in the final 3 games before we go into an offseason that's going to be a complete whirlwind? It's going to be a complete shift change down at Hallis Hall on 1920 Football Drive. So where are we at with Fields? Give him a grade for last night and tell me I guess give me I'm going to do like a teacher move here. Give me the grade. Tell me one thing that you like about him, and then tell me one thing that you think needs to be a number 1 priority for him next year. And keep in mind all of the moves that they need to make offensively, because let's be honest, Bears have a bottom 3, 4 wide receiver room in the NFL right now. Bottom 3, maybe. I can think of right now Jacksonville's probably worse. The Lions are worse. Jacksonville's had injuries. I think when they're healthy, Jacksonville has a better wide receiver room. But can we think of any other teams with worse wide receiver rooms than the Bears right now? I can't. I was trying to think all day, and I really could not. So again, keep that in mind when you're giving your grades. Time for Drew to defend his D rating last night of Justin. A lot of people had the same grade as you, so this isn't a shot. I know Lance Briggs said D yesterday on the NBC Sports After Talk show or whatever they call it, and whoever else was on there said D, C-, Alex Brown, I think. So you're not alone in this. I just want to hear why, because I disagree, and I thought it was closer to that C+ range.
Sure. So without getting into too much detail about my own personal grading system, and this is something that I keep for myself, really for my own sanity, when people fawn over quarterbacks like Tua for some reason, or they think that quarterbacks are maybe not playing well, like Stafford in Detroit. I like to go back to that one a lot. It's more for my own sanity, really. And the way I grade, just to kind of, give some context to this, is every play is graded independent of what his receivers or offensive line or whatever was doing. So, for example, if a screen pass is taken for 70 yards and touchdown, that's a neutral play. It's just like, congratulations, sure, you threw a screen pass. If you throw a dime that's dropped, right, 30 yards down the field and is dropped by a defender, dropped by your wide receiver, you're going to get a positive play for that because you made a really good throw. If you throw a pass that should have been intercepted because you made the wrong read, or you just made a bad mechanical play and you threw it right to a defender that was dropped, it's not technically an interception, but you're going to get a negative play for that because you threw what should have been an interception. Sack fumbles, those are, and that are your fault, that are obviously your fault, you get dinged for that. Good pocket movement, you'll get positive for that if you're able to avoid a sack. So I have various parameters that I look at when I'm doing these grades. And Fields, yesterday, he had, I think there were, I'll have to go back to my sheet here, but I think there were 3 or 4 plays that were disastrous, right? You had, the first turnover, the highlight that we just saw, the fumble, that's a bad play. I had the sack where he jumped, ate the ball on a screen, fumbled the ball, and was able to recover it at least, but that lost 12 yards, and they were in the red zone. That was a negative play. I also had the sack that he took in the second half, on the first drive, which was inexcusable. That was another one. I also dinged him on that 4th and 1 where it was a busted play. He should have gotten either rid of the ball or just kind of chucked it downfield as like an arm punt of sorts. But he ate it and took a sack. Mm-hmm. The fourth and 1.
Let's take a look at that play really quick, because let's take a look at it really quick.
Let's do it.
That's Mooney in the backfield. Fields rolls his direction to the right on 4th and 1, trying to keep the play alive, and now he's dead.
Yeah, bad play.
Now he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awful play call. It's an awful play call. Awful situational. And obviously pre-snap confusion. All that is fair, but again, independent of that, when you see that your 2 reads are covered and you're not going to make the first down, throw it away. You lost 3 yards there, or 2 yards, whatever it was. So that's another negative play. So like that, I didn't see enough positive in the game from Fields. Like, he made a lot of checkdowns, which are whatever. I mean, I'm not going to give him.
Yeah, he completed about 67% of his passes yesterday, and there were
a lot more checkdowns.
But he also did have a career high in yards and down the field.
Yes.
Yards going or passes going beyond 10 yards too.
Yes, I agree. And I think the only issue I have is he had that one really good drive where they went from their own, I think, 2-yard line that should have been a touchdown. That was a very positive drive for him. He was an A quarterback on that drive.
And then the garbage time drive.
But then the garbage time, which I don't really care about. Like I just kind of ignore that. So all in all, when the game mattered, I don't think Fields was a differentiator. In fact, I think for the most part, Fields was almost on the below average side. I gave him a D because the first half was awful, in my opinion. The way I grade, I know optically it may not look that way, but the way I grade, it was really bad. And the second half was started bad before it got better. But that's why I had it. Like I said before earlier on this podcast, I think, D might have been a little bit harsh. I probably would have gone maybe C-.
Sure.
But it was not a good performance in my opinion. And it just, was there stuff to be, hopeful about? Sure, there always is, and I think in some of Fields' performances, but personally, I'm not necessarily seeing individual rate of growth that is as promising as I would have liked so far, except for the San Francisco game, the Pittsburgh game. I thought both those performances were really good. Since then, I've just kind of been like, okay, fine, like sure. And I've also had a lot of, what the hell? So we'll see. I mean, there is a lot that can happen in an off season. New supporting cast on the way, new coach on the way. Maybe he'll pick up a lot of things from the new coach that'll help him get better faster. And maybe we'll be looking at an entirely different quarterback next year. But I think, and I know I'm going a little bit long here, I think fans are too quick to dismiss all of Fields' struggles and saying, oh, he's in a bad system. Oh, it's Matt Nagy. Oh, and I get it's become almost a meme at this point, where it's like, oh, Matt Nagy, ha ha ha. But there are signs of concern, and he needs to address those.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I just want to, Eric had a nice thread on this. I want to share it. He posted on Twitter. These are just the hard stats. Obviously, you can look into it however much you want. QBR is kind of a, it's not. I noticed who commented that earlier. We had Mark comment this earlier. This was an article that came out on ESPN before the game. ESPN has to promote the Monday night game. This was an article that was going to get clicks and get people to watch the game, which, by the way, it broke a record 15.9 million viewers on Monday Night Football, the most in a decade since 2011 last night. I don't know why 15.9 people tuned in for that game, but listen, I don't like QBR. I just think that it's kind of a, it's an ESPN created stat that just kind of is, it's up to discretion, but there's growth here in these numbers, no doubt. Right, Eric? I mean, I'm seeing growth here.
I mean, it's not just the numbers. The numbers alone say what they say, but if you watch the games, compared to where he was when he started against Cleveland to now, he's a much better quarterback. Does he have a ton of work to do? No question. Got to clean up the turnovers, taking too many sacks. He plays a lot of hero ball, as they like to say right now. He's trying to do too much, and it leads to these mistakes. He has to learn to play within the system and only take his big opportunities when the situation feels right. I think he's going to get there. He's a smart kid. He works his tail off, and it's just a question of getting in a system that nurtures his strengths and helps hide his weaknesses, which is something he's not in right now. So the fact that he's been able to improve regardless of all the things working against him, I think is probably the most encouraging thing in all of this.
I completely agree. And I think there's 2 points I want to make. As we look into next year, because I think, Kevin, you asked for, hey, what do you like? What do you want to see him improve on? Mm-hmm. I think there are still some plays where he takes a little bit too long to process what's happening or just holds onto the ball too long. And the play the play to be made is there for a certain window, and then it escapes him, and that's when he decides to throw the ball, and that's not good. So he needs to speed that up. And the second thing is, we also have to be very careful. I know that this has been a very hot topic about playing to your quarterback strengths, and very, very true and very fair. I think the other piece to keep in mind is that these quarterbacks, we also have to hope that they can improve on what those weaknesses are. Because if you only have a scheme that is designed to the strengths of a quarterback that's always rolling out, always boot action, always this and that, it's a limited offense at the end of the day. There's only so many things you can do, because eventually a good defensive coordinator will take it away. And then what do you do, right? That happened with Jared Goff in LA. It's happened with, to a certain extent, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. You will, and Trubisky obviously. So you will have challenges. So you hope that Fields can learn to improve on some of what his weaknesses are, so that then he becomes that 5-tool quarterback where no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to stop him, like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Tom Brady.
I want to point out one thing, and it's a game going on right now. I've watched a lot of Eagles football this year. Don't ask me why. Actually, you can ask me why. It's
Why?
mainly because Jalen Hurts, I think he's a good quarterback. And I think Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts are very similar. I think they're very, very similar. And I think Fields can be a lot better. I look at the Eagles' offense, and I see what the Bears' offense could be. The Eagles are putting up a lot of points this year. I mean, they've scored over 30 at least 4 or 5 times. They've had a couple 40-point games. They beat the Saints. They have the difference between these two teams is the Eagles have 3 first-round picks next year, and the Bears have none. But I think that the Bears could go a similar route as what the Eagles are taking with Jalen Hurts. A lot of QB design runs, but they're also letting him rip the ball down the field. They have a much better tight end. But wide receiver room is pretty much the same. I don't know. Devonta Smith and Mooney. I mean, Devonta Smith may be better, but right now he's not. Anybody else on that team? I don't know. I've watched a lot of Eagles football this year, and I think that if you're going for a small blueprint, obviously you want to be better. The Eagles haven't won as many games, but look, there's a lot of mediocre football teams. The Bears aren't going to go to one of the top 3 or 4 teams next year. If you want to make the playoffs and give Fields that playoff experience before you can really start competing the year after that, I think that's a benchmark to aim for. They score a lot of points, and they've beaten some good teams this year, and right now they're on their way to a playoff berth with, again, 3 first-round picks incoming. I know that that's different, but I don't know. Am I wrong to think that way?
They're strong in the trenches, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like their offensive line, defensive line, it's always been a strength for the Eagles over the last 5-10 years, and it continues to be, and that's huge for them. And I don't share the same positive opinion of Hurts as you do, Kev, but he's playing well. Nick Sirianni is doing good work with him.
I agree.
I have to admit that he's doing good work. They have decent weapons. They're utilizing their tight ends well. Miles Sanders is playing well. I'm impressed. I mean, Sirianni started out with like a 40-point outburst in week 1. Then I think they struggled a little bit, and now they're playing much better. So hats off to Sirianni. Hats off to Jalen Hurts for executing that offense to an extent. I think he has severe limitations in certain aspects, but right now they're doing a good job of hiding it. And to your point, there are a lot of mediocre teams and not a lot of paths to all of them getting better necessarily, especially if you think Aaron Rodgers leaves the conference next year and goes to someplace like Denver, which, I mean, Bears fans can only hope, and I'm sure everyone would be willing to drive that U-Haul out to Denver.
Starting to lose faith in that. But
I was going to say, yeah.
Who knows? Where are you at with number 1? Leave your comments, questions, concerns. Again, this is another Bears loss, a team that they should have beat. They're a lot better than the Vikings, I think. I don't think the Vikings have ever been very good, especially under Kirk Cousins. They've won 1 playoff game. Kirk Cousins is the epitome of the average NFL quarterback. But again, if we want to talk about stats that are misleading, Kirk Cousins might throw for 4,000 yards this year. They're not going to win a playoff game. They might not even make the playoffs. And he's got arguably the best wide receiver room in the league. And he's got a great tight end, and he has a top 5 running back. And he is not good against good defenses. He's not.
Speaking of the Vikings,
should have won this game.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And speaking of the Vikings not making the playoffs potentially, in 2 of the last 3 years, the Bears have been the ones to deliver the kill shot to the Vikings playoff hopes. You think about 2018, obviously the last week of the season, the Bears beat them on the road to knock them out of the playoffs. Last year, the Bears beat them on the road again to go to 7-7 and knock the Vikings, I think, to 6-8 or 6-7, something like that. But basically, they took the tiebreaker and they catapulted themselves into playoff contention while basically getting rid of the Vikings. So that's 2 out of 3 years they've done that. They'll have an opportunity possibly in week 17 or week 18 to do that to the Vikings again. I'm sure they'll be still playing for their playoff lives, assuming they take care of business the next 2 weeks. The Bears could have that opportunity in Matt Nagy's final game to knock him out again. That'd be fun. These teams do not like each other. I mean, you saw the chippiness and the fights, in last night's game. They clearly some bad blood. I bet the Bears love nothing more than to knock them out at home again.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears have had their number the last couple seasons, and they had their number again last night. But again, rookie quarterback and a lot of mistakes, you lose the game. If there's any Vikings fans in the comments, leave your comments. I'd love to hear. But you guys can't keep selling yourself on Kirk Cousins, man. He's bad. Like he's not. I have watched. I am so tired of listening to Vikings fans tell me that Kirk Cousins is the answer and they have everything else in place. No, he's not. I mean, case in point, he's going to throw for 4,000 yards this year, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
He throws for 4,000 yards every year, and they don't make the playoffs.
Right. I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy. If you couldn't tell, and Vikings fans chirping Justin Fields for being bad yesterday when they wanted to trade up and get him too. Get out of here with all of that. Give me Justin Fields 10 times out of 10 before I put Kirk Cousins in that. I would start Fields over Kirk Cousins. I would say it. I'm putting it out there. Give me that ladder of a franchise right now. If we're looking at building blocks, I don't want anything to do with number 8. 87 yards passing yesterday against a bunch of guys that shouldn't be out there. But one guy played his ass off. I want to show this quick clip of Thomas Graham, who, again, another indictment on Matt Nagy, and somehow Xavier Crawford got snaps over this guy. Look at this. I mean, it wasn't just one play. Bang, that was huge. That was on third down. This was my favorite play of the night.
This is a huge play. Huge play.
I mean, just beautiful coverage across the field. That was look at him jump and make the. I mean, this is just it's a great play. All of those are first downs, and I think a few of those were on third downs.
Yes.
Here's another one. Great tackle in the open field here. I mean, he earned himself a roster spot. Bears signed him to the full man roster for the remainder of this year. So looking at a building block there in the secondary, that's a positive. But anyway, the moral of this show, I want to hear where everyone's at with Justin Fields. Where Drew was at. Eric, where are you at with Justin?
You know, I totally understand why people are probably pessimistic about Justin because of the Bears quarterback history, because of the way he started and the continued turnover problems that he's having so far this season. I totally get it. I can only defend him so much on that, and I'm not going to get overly meatballish and fanboyish about it. He does need to improve. He absolutely needs to improve. But from what I've seen, where he started the season to where he is now, he's looking more and more like a professional NFL quarterback, especially in the passing game, operating better from the pocket, finding his guys on second and third reads. Ball placement is becoming a big strength of his, putting the ball where only his guys have a chance to get it. If only they'd catch it more often, it would look even better. It's a question of, being quicker with his reads in the pocket. That obviously needs to improve, as it does with most rookies. And, just learning how to take the checkdowns when they're there, not be overly aggressive when you don't have to be, because you've got some guys who can make plays for you. David Montgomery in the open field is always dangerous. Darnell Mooney can make things happen with his speed. You've got some pieces there. You need to just learn to trust them a little more often. And then it's a question of just continuing to build those snaps, get that improvement. And I think given his work ethic and given his talent, he'll get there, provided the Bears can get the structure around him to nurture it. And we're not at that point yet because Nagy's still here and he's still running the show. And it's really difficult to get excited about Fields because that's the case in the back of your head. So until Nagy's out of the picture and they bring in somebody else, hopefully with some credibility, it's really difficult to be down or up on Justin Fields because it just feels incomplete at this point.
Those are fair points. I mean, I agree. To the stats you showed earlier, are there signs of improvement? 100%. I mean, he is nowhere near the green deer in headlights quarterback that we saw in Cleveland. So yeah, I mean, the hope is absolutely he's able to work on a lot of this in the off season. I know there's been a lot of talk about, is Fields ruined or is he on the path to being ruined? I don't think so. I think all of his issues are very much fixable. He just has to do them and have them actually translate to the field. It's one thing to do it in practice. It's another thing to do it on the field. And sometimes it's harder to do that. So I'd love to see that. Speaking of which, though, I feel like we should almost introduce this head coach, power rankings of sorts when it comes to, potential head coaches coming in. I know, like it's
I'm just so tired. We can talk about it. I'm just so tired of hearing the carousel of names changing every single week. I don't know,
know,
and
exactly.
they're not going to get it right.
It's fluctuated so much, and we talk about like Brian Dable was the name in week 1, and then it was Kellen Moore, and then it was Byron Leftwich for a while for some people, and then it was some just so many different names, and it's kind of fascinating. I mean, there's obviously the whole thing is Ryan Pace going to stay or is he not? So a lot of uncertainty, but man, Josh McDaniels is very, 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 very much on my radar right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
totally. I mean,
let's get the list going.
Agree.
Yeah, let's get the list going in the comment section. Who do you guys want your head coach? Where are you at with Justin? Let's hear from QB1 first, and then we'll hop into the coaching conversation.
Throughout the year, you've had drives that look good, and then they're really good by penalties, more turnovers.
Mm-hmm. That's been the story. That's been the story of the year, for sure. I mean, it's just shooting ourselves in the foot, and once we eliminate those penalties, sacks on my part where I should just throw the ball away, throw the ball, down to the ground. Once we eliminate those, then, we start seeing more points come up on the board and, more success from, the whole team. I thought the defense played great tonight, and they put us in a position to win.
It's still happening this long into the season. It's frustrating at this point, and especially with the false starts, just everything. I mean, we're gonna have to come up with something, a punishment during practice, run a lap or something, because that's what we did at Ohio State. If you jumped outside, you run the whole lap. I don't care who you are. So they even had me running laps if I would do something wrong. But we're gonna have to do something to fix that, and I know whatever that is, I know everybody's gonna be on board with it, and we're going to get it fixed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be on board with it. He seems to have taken control of the offensive side of the locker room, and he seems to be on the sides of guys that are going to be there next year. Tevin Jenkins and David Montgomery. He's talked very positively of those guys. Darnell Mooney, same thing. But guys who've checked out, we haven't heard a peep out of them. I love the leadership of number one, and I think that gets us into the topic you guys want to talk about. Who do you want coaching this team in 2021? And first, I want to ask this. Do you guys think that he'll be given a say in who's the head coach next year? Do you think that George McCaskey will pull Justin into the coaching conversation and say, hey, who do you think would help me out? Because Justin's going to call Ryan Day. He's going to call other coaches that he's had and said, hey, what worked best for me? And who do you know that might be a good coaching candidate for me? He's well connected in this league. The dude's got 1 million followers as a 22-year-old. He's a good athlete. He's a well-known athlete. He's well connected in the quarterback and coaching field because he was, the number 1 or number 2 prospect coming out. Everyone knew he was going to be great. So he knows people. He's going to talk to those people. Would you let George, or do you think George McCaskey will let him have a decision in that?
In terms of having an actual decision, no, I don't think he will. But I do think they're going to keep Justin in the loop as to what they're doing in regards to the head coaching position, because you probably should do that, because he should know he's the leader, he's the quarterback. He's going to want to be in the loop on what sort of situation the next head coach is going to get him into offensively and all that. So, of course, you want to keep him informed. But I go back to what the Packers did with Matt LaFleur, because they didn't consult Aaron Rodgers about hiring Matt LaFleur. They hired Matt LaFleur because they felt he was best for the franchise. And the guys might be on course to win 13 games for the third straight season, which is just absolutely insane. So they have to do what's best for the Bears, not what's just best for Justin Fields. Should Justin Fields be a priority? 100%. But they need to do what's best for the Bears. And I think George McCaskey is going to end up having that mindset as he goes into this process.
100% agree. And quite honestly, I really hope it's not George McCaskey being the one keeping all this in mind, right? I hope it's...
it is, though. It is.
Oh, I know. I just, it's just one of my wish list items is, I hope he hires a president of football operations. That person cleans house. That person brings in the GM and the VP of football ops are the ones making these decisions and deciding whether or not to consult Fields or not. And yes, from the immediate future, Justin Fields and his development and his leading this team from a quarterback perspective should be, I don't want to say front and center, because at the end of the day, you need a coach who can lead 53 players, or 61 if you include practice squad, whatever it is. you need a coach that's able to do all of that. So Justin Fields matters for sure. His well-being and development matters, but this has to be a coaching hire that's able to control the entire locker room, offense, defense, special teams, coach well, prepare his team. It's
right. No, I totally.
Yeah.
He deserves a say. I think he has to have a say in this. This is an offensively driven league. I watched a great segment this morning on Colin Cowherd's show. Whether you like him or not, I think he knows football pretty well. And I hear him talking all about how the Bears have to do something different. They have to do something different. They has to do something different. Not letting your franchise quarterback have a say in this decision would be foolish, in my opinion. I think he will have. I don't think he's going to get. I'm not saying he gets the end all be all decision, but George absolutely has to consult him and say, "Listen, in order for us to win games in 2022 and beyond, you have to be great. If we want to win playoff games, you have to be great," and he has to have a say. Now, who do you want coaching this team in 2021? I want Jim Harbaugh. I'm rooting for Michigan to win the national title because I keep hearing Hub Arkush talk about how his close relationship with Jim, and they lived like close to each other for a while, and he's got a long history of covering him, and that he would come back to the NFL if he wins a national championship. I would love to have Jim Harbaugh on this team. That's my pick. He can coach it all. He can do it all, and he's had head coaching experience.
I mean, you look at his track record. He's been a winner everywhere he's been, in college and in the NFL. So it just tells you that he's a good, solid football coach. And that's more than Matt Nagy can say at this point. So I totally understand the allure of Harbaugh. I wouldn't be totally upset about it. He's not my personal choice because he's a little on the older side. And he also has a tendency to wear out his welcome after a period of years. I'd much prefer try to search for someone you can build with longevity with Justin, like a Belichick, like a Sean Payton, like a Sean McVay, one of those types. And, I understand why a lot of people are against Josh McDaniels. His tenure in Denver was atrocious. He mishandled the entire situation. It was an absolute disaster. And then the whole thing with the Colts leaves you wondering, is he going to get cold feet right away and try to jump ship again? So all of the concerns about Fields are warranted. But at the same time, you can't deny the guy. He was going to hire Matt Eberflus as his defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. He backed out, but Eberflus stayed, and now he's one of the best defensive coordinators in football. So you have a sense that McDaniels can build a staff just from that evidence right there. And he's one of the best offensive minds in football. You have over a decade of evidence to show this, not just with Tom Brady, but now with Mac Jones. He did it with Matt Castle in 2008. He had success with Kyle Orton, who threw for over 3,800 yards with Denver in 2009. So he's had success with different quarterbacks. Yeah, there you go. So he's proven that he can do it with just about any quarterback. So just imagine what he can do with a talent like Justin Fields, a quarterback that apparently, according to Albert Breer, he likes Justin Fields going into the draft, this past year. So when you think about that and you think about what he's done for Mac Jones this season, made him look like a serviceable quarterback, considering he's a rookie and all that, despite, the Patriots not having a lot of offensive talent, if we're outside of the offensive line, in my opinion.
Really, yeah.
So
Hunter Henry's very good. Very good
yes,
tight end.
He's a very solid tight end. No doubt about that.
Impressive. You're right.
Just thinking about what he can do for Justin, it just makes you salivate because he's that good of an offensive mind. So that's why he's probably my number one choice at this point, despite all the very valid concerns. I just think he'd make Justin the quarterback that you absolutely believe he can be.
And yeah, you're I think I know who you're taking, right?
Look, I mean, I've been back and forth on various coordinators. I mean, obviously Brian Daboll started the year as a favorite. Kellen Moore, what became one of the tops on my list. Greg Roman was interesting for a while. Josh McDaniels is probably currently my number one at this moment.
Over Nathaniel Hackett, huh? I thought you were going to say Hackett for sure.
Nathaniel Hackett's my 1A. He's my, or 1B, I guess.
Yeah, he's going to get a job somewhere. He might get that Jacksonville job, honestly. I think I've already heard rumors of him going down there.
It would be an excellent hire for them. I mean, I think he was already the quarterback coach or offensive coordinator there for a year or two, I believe.
He got Blake Bortles to an AFC championship. So
yeah, he's very good. He's my 1A or 1B right now. And
hey, if you can weaken the Packers in the process.
Exactly. I mean, and for those who don't know who Nathaniel Hackett is, he's the offensive coordinator for the Packers right now. He's not directly involved with play calling from getting the calls out to Aaron Rodgers standpoint, but he is responsible for, preparation for them. Obviously, they're one of the most well-coached offenses in the league, always ready. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're well schemed, and he has a big influence on that and has done that, for several years. So
he also has a big reputation for making great adjustments at halftime and all sorts of stuff like that. So, that's exactly what you want from your head coach.
Last week, case in point to that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, exactly. And so that's why, I mean, both of those guys are certainly, tops on my list. And question is, obviously the concerns we already talked about with McDaniels, but same with Hackett. Can they command a locker room of 53 plus, 8, 10, whatever practice squad players? Can they do that?
And the rumors about Hackett are absolutely he can. His players absolutely love him. From all the reports I've read over the past few months, he's a guy that is a glue guy in the locker room. Players love him. He's got a personality, but he also has that. He's quirky. He's one of those guys who's got a quirk to him, and he can be really funny and all that. But at the same time, when the time comes that he has to be disciplined on his guys and all that, he can do that. So he can toe that line between being the guy that you need to respect and fear, but also being the guy who can motivate you. So that sounds like a head coach when you hear it said like that.
Exactly, which is why I'm very excited about that possibility. And to Eric's point, it's a bonus if you can weaken the Packers. And it would be both of those guys are probably on number one on my list right now. And I think the Bears would do well to hire either of them.
I would be cool with McDaniels or Harbaugh. I Hackett, same thing. I'm okay with it, but I really want a guy with play calling experience. I want a guy who's been there, done that, won Super Bowls. I want that. So I'd be cool with Josh McDaniels. I just don't know if he's going to be interested.
Well, then you got to throw Doug Peterson into the mix. He's still out there, Super Bowl winning head coach. He's still only 53 years old.
I know it's kind of a Bears Twitter opinion, but too close to Matt Nagy for my liking. I'm good on that.
It's your call, man. But I imagine he's going to have success whichever team he ends up on.
It'd be hilarious if they hired someone like Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, and then they went ahead and tried to hire Mike Kafka as offensive coordinator. How much would Bears Twitter freak out?
Yeah, that'd be a mess. Yeah, see, they're gonna if they go out and hire like some random no name that no one knows. That's like, Matt LaFleur was kind of a no name for a little bit there. Nobody really took him into account. He ran a pretty good offense down there in Tennessee, but I don't know. You're right. The only way I'm going to feel confident with this, is if they get a football operations guy who cleans and does this whole thing. Mm-hmm. If we see George and Ted and Ryan Pace making this decision, I'm not going to feel good about it. And quite frankly, even if it is Josh McDaniels, I'll just somehow find a way for it not to be the right decision. Figure it out. But that's where I'm at personally. But leave your comments, questions. Anybody have any of those? We touched on a lot today. Roquan Smith snubbed from the Pro Bowl. That really sucks. It's really dumb. The Pro Bowl voting is dumb anyway. I think Roquan will get All Pro again. So we'll wait to see on that. But the Pro Bowl is stupid. He didn't get in. Robert Quinn did. Jakeem Grant did. Jakeem Grant also got concussed last night, which sucks. I am so impressed with Jakeem Grant. I'm looking forward to him being on this team next year. I hope that he's a lot of fun. He's a lot better than Tariq Cohen, and he's playing a lot better than Cordero Patterson is that gadget guy. So those two are Pro Bowlers. We talked about Justin Fields. Where are you at with him? Leave your comments. We'll talk about it. And also, for my sanity, tell me why you don't like the Vikings, because I just don't. I'm so tired of all I heard on that Monday night broadcast yesterday was, we got to fire potent offense to the Vikings. Oh yeah, okay. You couldn't beat a C team out there, so whatever. Not saying that Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook aren't great, but their quarterbacks stink. So if you agree with me, give me a shout in the comment section. But let's look at some comments.
I like this one.
Yeah,
I like this one.
Bring it on. Hey, can I? If you're GM, can I? What job would I get if I was your GM? What would
I'd
you
make
hire me
you
as?
director of pro scouting. You seem to have a good eye for them veteran talents.
I hate college football, so I
See,
I,
I'm already thinking.
Yeah, I wouldn't want you send me out to a college game. I'd be like, nah.
Maximizing his strengths, huh?
Yeah. What would Drew be?
He'd be your right-hand man, director of college scouting. He seems to like the college stuff a lot more. He's good on the draft stuff.
Who's getting paid more? Who gets the bigger check? Me or Drew?
Well,
building through the
Drew's
draft.
got seniority at SM, so I'd give it to him.
And building through the draft.
Yeah,
this is more important.
Very true.
Yeah, draft picks are worth more in every sport.
Here, Drew, $1.
Thank you. I'll use it well.
Like that, Eric for GM. There's been worse ideas. It really has been. Not seeing a whole lot of comments out there. That's all right. No problems there.
Yeah,
but
one of those nights.
I guess people have Bears fatigue at this point. They're like, get us to the off season.
I totally understand.
I get it, guys. We have 3 more games. We have Seattle, New York, and what was the last? The Minnesota. I mean,
yeah, Minnesota again.
It's just who cares? I'm looking forward to the snow game in Seattle next week. That'll be fun.
That's why I said that Packers game was the last game that mattered.
Seattle's about to lose, man. That's a heartbreaker.
Oh, what's the score of that game? I know the
20-10, and apparently they got hit by a couple of really nasty penalties.
Dang. Well,
you guys will love this. I am going to win my fantasy game, and that means I don't have to do stand-up comedy as the loser. Which is huge because I had a 2-10 team going into this year. I was losing. I was terrible. And I made a trade for Stephon Diggs. I fought through injuries. Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce balled out for me this week. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going on the big stage. It's going to be one of my other friends.
They came through for you, man.
I had notes written and everything. I was ready to go, but I'm not going to be on the stand-up stage. So if you're in Chicago, I'll let you guys know on our next podcast once we find out who that loser is. Everybody can come out and kind of watch. We'll get a whole crew out there at a comedy club to watch my friend do some stand-up. So whoever it is, it's going to be between my friend Nick and my friend Danny. So fun stuff.
You want to read us one of your bits right now?
So I work in AM radio. Does anybody ever listen to AM radio?
Occasionally.
Oh, my buddy just tagged me. My buddy just tagged me in the something funny. I got to look at that later. But something with Barstool. This is the second time now I've been tagged in a Dave Portnoy tweet, and that can never be a good thing. So I have to go look at that. But anyway, what was the question before that?
I was asking, do you want to read us one of your bits?
So they're all kind of inside jokes, but I was going to kind of relate it to everything. So I was going to start off with, well, I work in AM radio, and kind of go off that. I really didn't have a whole, to be honest, I didn't really have a whole thing planned. You really put me on the spot there.
Well,
I would kind of go up there and say, hey, I'm used to this. I can talk in front of people, but this time you have to see my face kind of thing. It would have been really bad. I'll be honest. It would have been really bad. I didn't really have anything going. So, I don't have to do it. So, hey, that's their problem.
You can rip up those notes now.
It's on my phone, so digital. So.
Hey, look, we have we have not fake Matt Nagy here.
Dude, that'd be so funny if that was actually him.
That'd be awesome.
That would be hilarious.
Hi, Matt. Now that you're basically getting fired, do you want to go grab a beer? Be fun.
I'd love to have Matt Nagy on the pod.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun.
I just want to know what he told the refs yesterday, where he got the 15-yard penalty. I want to know what he said.
Yeah. Also,
how fitting would it be if he was mic'd up?
Oh yes, would be fantastic.
Wilbur, we just had a comment on this, but we'll quickly run through it. I want John Harbaugh. I want a guy who's commissioned, done there, been there, done that.
Jim Harbaugh.
I would love John.
I mean, John Harbaugh
for sure. He'd be my immediate choice. Yeah. I mean, he's coaching his ass off in Baltimore right now.
Can I switch? You wrote an article about Sean Payton. I would love Sean Payton here too.
Oh please.
Well, okay.
Sure. He'd be my number one even more than John Harbaugh.
What are the odds of him leaving New Orleans? Because I've seen more than one article on this now.
He's
That would be
flirted with it,
insane.
honestly, since 2015, but I don't think it's going to happen. He signed an extension recently. They still got a good team. They're probably a quarterback away from getting right back into contention. So, I don't think he's going to leave, but I will say crazy stuff happens all the time in the NFL. So I don't think he's going to leave, but if by some miracle he does, the Bears have to write a blank check for that man.
I'd love to see the Browns get rid of Baker, because that way he can go to New Orleans and pair up with a coach that actually knows how to use him.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Baker would dominate in New Orleans.
Be amazing. Be actually amazing. I am so sour on Kevin Stefanski. Oh my God, so conservative. I hate him. And I don't actually hate him, but I hate his play calling.
Dude, Baker stinks, man. I'm sorry. Baker stinks.
Hey, whoa.
Hey, man. Fighting words. Come on now.
You're choosing violence. You're choosing violence.
I don't know. I like to, maybe it's a bad person to side with, but I love siding with Colin Cowherd on things. I watched Nick Mullins yesterday. I've seen Case Keenum. They're not as good as Baker, but they're all the same class. They don't do anything different. Baker doesn't do anything for me, and he's not getting extended. He's going to find a new team, and he'll back up. He'll go the Trubisky route and probably find a.
Oh my God, Kevin! No, stop.
They are not going to find him. Also, here's the Dave Portnoy tweet, and if you can kind of see that's an article I wrote for WTMJ when I was in Milwaukee there. So now everybody's tagging me in like I'm famous again because they're all Aaron Rodgers. If you don't follow this, Dave Portnoy hates Deadspin. They've written a bunch of stuff on him, whether you agree with it or not. And then so now here I am right there, right in the little comment section there. So as the author of that article. So I guess that's the second time now. I called out Portnoy after the Bucks won a playoff game against the Pistons after they swept the Pistons in
he didn't take it well.
Like 2018 or 19. And it was a video of the Deer District outside of Five Star Forum saying, "We want Boston." He goes, "Yeah, okay, kid, whatever." And they wanted Boston, and they beat Boston in 6 games. So Bucks were a fun team. So, but anyway, yeah, no, I'm not a Baker guy, dude. I've seen enough. I know he's hurt. I know he's banged up, but
my guy. So according to my the grading scale that I was describing earlier today, Baker has been pretty awesome this season.
Well, of course he has.
It's not. I'm telling you, man. Go watch that. Go watch his tape. Go watch his tape. Throws that are like just accuracy down the field. His wide receivers have sucked. Like actually sucked. And these are not
How did Odell
like.
do tonight? How did Odell do tonight against?
I don't know. It's a good question.
They figured it out with him. He was not the issue, man. I don't know.
They
figured the Rams kind of figured out how to use him. He's been doing pretty good. Let's see how he did tonight.
Sean McVay, man, come on now.
1 catch for 7 yards on 3 targets.
Oh man, never mind. He didn't have a good game. Cooper Kupp with 136 yards.
Cooper Kupp, man.
God damn.
He has a shot at 2,000 yards. I'm not lying. He's genuinely
awesome.
got a shot at 2,000 yards. I think he's over 1,500 now.
Yeah,
3 games left.
Easily 1489 plus 136, so he's over 1600, 1620 or so.
Wow. 3 games left.
3 games left.
That's 400 yards. He can get there
easily. Yeah, he can easily get there. And I mean, the way Stafford's been, just nonstop looking for him. I mean, why not? And you have a quarterback to get him the ball in Stafford, not like
he's open.
Yeah, he's always open. It's just amazing. The Bears need a receiver like that. Maybe Michael Gallup can be. Like
I don't know if he'll ever be cut, but man, when 70%. You need him to make a tough catch, Gallup's one of the best in the NFL.
He's doing it.
Yeah, it'd be a cool signing. I'm waiting for a disgruntled star wide receiver to want out.
I take, Michael Gallup, Josh Reynolds as like that, wide receiver 3 of sorts, the guy who's been playing pretty well in Detroit.
I mean, think of it like this. You get Gallup, you've got Mooney, so that's maybe your 2 and 3 right there, and then go get David Bell early in the second round. There's your 3 guys right there. You got your number 1, Bell, which I think he's going to be. He's that good. And then you've got Mooney, who's probably your number 2, and then you've got Gallup there. I mean, that's a pretty solid
Jakeem Grant. Maybe you could even resign Damiere Byrd if you wanted to, as like that wide receiver 4. Daz Newsome, Terry Cohen hopefully comes back. So you got weapons there.
You'd have pieces, sure.
Pieces.
So they have ways that they can do it without having to break the bank.
Good pieces
they got to
Sean
bring
Payton
Jakeem Grant
to
back, man.
utilize
Jakeem Grant, what?
I think good pieces for Sean Payton to utilize next year.
Oh yeah, I know. I can't wait. Chicago native Sean Payton. I can't. They got to re-sign Jakeem Grant, man. He changed the offense.
Yeah, he's fun.
He's been awesome for them. I mean, he's making things happen. So I hope they get him back. Everybody else, I'd like Allen Robinson back too, but he's not coming back. So
No.
And Fields isn't they're not on the same page. So
if ever there was a reason for Allen Robinson to just throw any sort of contract offers back in the Bears' faces, it would be what happened to Chris Godwin.
Matt Nagy says we currently have the 35 pick. No. We have the 35th pick. You don't have anything. Sorry, but you're more than welcome to come on the podcast sometime. But you don't have the 35th pick. Just gonna put that out there. Anyway, we didn't really answer this guy's question. Next head coach, I'll just give a one word. I wanted Jim Harbaugh. Who did you guys want?
Either Josh McDaniels or Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coordinator of the Packers.
There you go, Wilbert. One of those.
McDaniels was my guy. He's pretty much my number one. But if it ended up being Harbaugh or Hackett, I'd be perfectly fine with it. I think they're both solid football coaches.
Todd Bowles or Leslie Frazier?
No.
I'm not a Bowles guy personally. I think he did get a raw deal with the Jets. I really do. But at the same time, I think he's got a whiff of Lovie Smith about him in that he constantly changes offensive coordinators and he can't fix the offense. It was that way with the Jets. Mm-hmm. And when I see a coach do that, it tells me that he just can't quite figure out that side of the ball. So I'm out on
side of the ball. That's just the side of the ball in the NFL. So
yeah.
What happened to the Dable hype train?
He derailed.
The Bills are 7-7. And they're probably not the best 7-7 team in the league right now. I don't know. I would have said before tonight I was on Washington, but I mean they didn't have Heineke tonight, so
still played the Eagles relatively tough.
They scored 17 points with Garrett Gilbert as their quarterback.
Yeah, I like.
Scott Turner has been given chicken shit all year, and he's making chicken salad out of it, which is another reason why he's probably my dark horse as a head coach candidate.
Yeah, what Chase is out too. What, right? Like he tears ACL early on this year.
Chase Young. Yeah.
So they still got a great defensive line even without him. No,
and William Jackson left today's game earlier in the game too, so that was a big loss for him.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera, another guy who can coach.
Sure can.
Yeah, rip. Let go in 2006. Shouldn't have done that. I liked Ron Rivera too. So, oh well. Well, that's going to do it for us. We went a little over an hour here. Bears drop 8 of 9. I'm angry, but I'm looking. I'm looking forward to next year already.
Oh yeah.
I want this year to be done. I want to bookmark this year. We got 3 more games. Who's up next? They go to Seattle next week, right?
Beautiful Seattle. Snowy. Apparently going to be snowy down at Lumen Field on Sunday. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
Seattle, New York, Minnesota. That's the finish.
Yeah. I mean, and they stink. DK Metcalf's going through a real big slump. He's not been great.
Russell Wilson's been bad all year.
He's been hurt. Yep. And they also, I don't even know if they're going to have.
How ironic that getting rid of Brian Schottenheimer actually made Wilson worse.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Wilson's going to want out, so maybe the Bears will put the final nail in the Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson partnership next week. Maybe we can look forward to that. I think the Bears have to get a win at some point here, losing 8 of 9, but who knows? They'll probably find a way to lose. So
it would be ironic for them to go and beat the Seahawks in Seattle and basically take it to Pete Carroll, who nixed that trade, who probably ended up doing the Bears a favor. So it would be
that would be fun.
It would be pretty fun. It'll be okay. You know what? I'm excited for these 3 games. Scratch everything I said. I was just excited to watch these 3 games. And
if for nothing else than the evaluation of the young guys and see how they continue to progress. Not just Fields, but Tevin Jenkins. He played well.
It's Mike Glennon's the Giants' backup, right?
He got benched.
It's Jake Fromm, baby. So we get to see the guy who forced Justin Fields to transfer from Georgia.
So there you go. I mean, you think about these 3 storylines, right? Next week, it's the Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. Then the week after, it's Justin Fields versus Jake Fromm. And then in the final week, it's the Bears' opportunity to knock the Vikings out of the playoffs for the 3rd year out of 4 years. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of intriguing storylines the last 3 games. It should be fun.
We'll have it all for you right here on the Club Dub podcast presented by SportsMockery.com. For Eric, Drew, and Kevin, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Give us a follow. You see our Twitter handles in the bottom left-hand corners right now. Give our show a follow. Go ahead and rewatch, share with your friends. We'll have more coming up in the new year as well. We're going to ride this thing out together, Bears fans. It's been a difficult year for all of us. It's not been fun to watch. This has been one of the more difficult years of football that we've had to endure, but it's going to get better. Believe in number one. Believe in the change, even if you don't want to. Give yourself a little bit of hope going into the new year that the NFL's a year-to-year league. We might get a little bit better this year or next year. It's, we'll definitely see. But anyway.
And above all, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I hope I can celebrate with my family. I'm sick, so maybe I'll have an NBA day by myself here in my apartment, but hopefully not. And I don't have COVID, but I'm all good. But
yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, all right, guys, have a great night. Again, give us a follow. We'll talk to you later. Clubbed Up Podcast.